Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Swede Rolls. I'm Chris.
I'm Toby.
And I'm Daniel.
And Daniel is back here again to tell us about...
Well, World of Darkness or Vampire, depending on how much I can...
Holy crap, there's so many points on this.
Yeah, I just made a list of like every game they've ever made in World of Darkness.
Yeah.
We will probably not be covering Mummy, for example.
Well, I can cover that, but mostly it'll be Vampire, because that's mostly what I know.
Yeah, and Vampire is probably the most famous, prolific World of Darkness game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the one that has sold the most.
Probably.
But I'm also not so sure which topic is more after that, Werewolf or Mage.
Mage would probably be a very well sold game. But in case you're wondering what we're talking about probably one of the best role-playing systems ever, which we've mentioned in a couple of other podcasts.
It's D10s.
Yeah. D10's the game. Yeah.
They decide your fate.
Exactly. And then you roll ones.
And Daniel, you've been in our podcast before, so I'm not going to ask you the typical starter questions. But why don't you start by telling us why you think Vampire is as the best World of Darkness game?
I don't know why I think it's the best. It's mostly because of all the others. If you're a mage, or if you're a ghost, if you're a werewolf, if you're a mummy, or whatever it is, that's kind of... I mean, any role-playing game is kind of hard to place yourself into the shoes of the creature you're trying to be, but... The simplest kind is the most closest to humanity, and the one game that actually strives and struggles with the concept of humanity, it is Vampire. Therefore, it is by far the simplest, and then also the best.
Yeah, I agree with you. It really is the struggle for retaining your humanity or becoming a monster, if that's your thing. But
or more likely, the game master afterwards tell you players that, do you realize what you've done? Have you really seen the things you have done? Do you see that person crying?
I can't help but think about the time when Toby's character shoved a pen into the eye of a guy, snapped the neck of a dog, and just kept walking.
It was...
Hey, humanity's hard sometimes.
Difficult.
Yeah, of course. Difficult. What was difficult? Aiming for his eye?
Well, deciding how to kill him.
I don't think that would be difficult. You decide in less than half a second.
Yeah. Well, it was a snap keep, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, there's another reason actually for Vampire. I mean, if you're playing Werewolf, such actions would not be more than commonplace. I mean, you're playing a beast.
Yeah.
If you're playing a Wraith, hey, you left morality and mortality behind you. You're dead.
Yeah.
If you're a Changeling, you know more about that than I do, but other things, if you're a mage, you can just rewrite reality. I mean, it doesn't matter whatever you do. The one game that actually stays with you, with your decisions, is mostly Vampire, though.
Yeah, yeah. But what would you say is the difference between World of Darkness and our world?
Well, when I'm cynical, I would say that the World of Darkness has a system that actually decides good from bad, and, well, that's about it. I mean, in our world, you can be a real asshole, corrupt, murderer, whatever, and you get away with it. In the World of Darkness, you will get away with it, of course, but more people will know that you've done it at least.
So you don't think there's much difference between our world and...
If you'd ask me when I started playing like 20 years ago, I would say there's a huge difference, because then they created the World of Darkness to be this dark reflection. Now, hey, it's not far away.
Yeah, I can totally see where you're getting at.
That's a problem, though, because in the original, you have to come up with ways to like shake your players in their morality core. But today, with the internet, with anything you read in media, I mean, you're so jaded.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
4chan.
4chan, yeah. We were actually talking about that before, but that's for another podcast.
Yeah.
But Vampire, it's pretty rich. We're talking old World Darkness again here, yeah.
Yeah, the new part I don't touch.
Now, why? Let's discuss that. Why the animosity to New World Darkness?
Well, first off, I don't think that the solution to a problem is to abandon it entirely and just give up on it. It sounds just weak. Another reason is that I bought like all the books in the old world, and I don't want to spend so much money on all the new books that they're gonna set out. That is gonna be originally just copies of the old thing.
didn't you play Warhammer? You should be used to that.
I never did, actually.
All right.
I kept myself far away.
Oh, you want me to spend 1,000 crowns on books? Sure. Oh, yeah, those books are old, and I have to get new ones. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I avoided that with Vampire, but you never learned a lesson, did you?
No, never did.
No, you never did.
Well, they did release a new updated version on the old Vampire the Masquerade book not too long ago.
And that is what I'm playing.
Yeah. And it was V20, right? That's your favorite version of it.
Yeah.
Which is the 20th anniversary of Vampire.
That is correct.
Yeah.
They've done a V20 or a 20th anniversary of older games mostly. Yeah. And they're all rather good, actually.
Yeah. And that's, I think we mentioned it before, but that's Onyx Path Publishing, I think they're called, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah. And shout out to them, by the way, for keeping an old IP alive. They are very true to the source material and their new stuff as well.
They are. I mean, older iterations like the third edition and the new stuff they were going to try to put out, like, it would destroy the entire continuum. It would destroy the feeling of the game. It would be less of a storyteller game. It would be less of a morality horror game. It would be more like a Dungeons and Dragons game. Because, we're going to have a big showdown. And
the apocalypse.
Books, and they were going to explain all the things that are secret in systems that they want. Because most of the games in World of Darkness is you don't know. You never know. You can guess. You can strive and you can try, but you never know. And you never get to know. Because it's not even written.
Yeah. Remember, it's interesting because it has a lot of, the more you dig into it, the more you realize that history has been very affected by vampires, right?
Yeah. And the fun part about it is, if you're interested in history or culture or religion or anything, add it in, throw it into the mix. It just makes the game greater. And all those little stuff you read about on the internet or conspiracy theories or Atlantis, whatever you have, it can be worked into it.
Yeah.
I mean, who says it can't be true?
So, for those of you who listen to this and don't know World of Darkness, which I can assume quite a lot of you, Daniel, how would you describe the setting of Vampire?
Right, the setting of Vampire. Let's see. World of Darkness is mostly based on our world. It is our world, but behind the scenes where you don't really see, there is creatures running around of mostly supernatural origins, and they try to keep themselves hidden because they are big bad monsters, but humanity will outbreed them, outlive them, outgun them, and hey, humanity is never ending more like it. There are so many people, so many things they can do, especially in modern times. Yeah. So if you play Vampire, you're a vampire and you go out and say, hey, I'm a huge, awesome guy, and you're still gonna sleep half the day. There's still gonna be thousands of people with guns and tanks and what have you. You won't win. And vampires are smart. They know this. Yeah,
and the part you mentioned about humanity being a huge danger recently, the Inquisition plays a pretty big role too, right?
Oh yeah, in the story of the vampire, absolutely. It is the turning point. Before that, they have two settings. The first is played in the Dark Ages, in the Middle Ages, where vampires run amok, run free, have nothing to check them except themselves. And then they have the Inquisition, which is a period when humanity finds out that, right, we can strike back, and we can do it really hard by going with the sun, and hey, vampires sleep half the day, so they're screwed. Yeah. So the other setting, the modern setting, is called the Masquerade, which is all the vampires mostly masquerading as humans, because they've learned that lesson that if we don't keep hidden, we'll most likely die.
So what do the vampires do all day, or all night, actually? I mean, if they're just hiding from people.
No, that wouldn't be so much fun to play, would it? No, they're mostly, they're trying to screw each other over. They're trying to gain all the possible powers. I mean, the older vampires all sit around and brag about how powerful and big they are, all the while they're terrified of the young ones who's coming around with new technology the old ones cannot understand, new power bases that'll chuck the old ones out on the street. And
sounds like my old job.
Mine too.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of a struggle between the new and the old there, right?
Yeah, and the prime setting of Vampire, at least according to players and myself, is the world can go hang, really. It's more of a player-to-player kind of game. It's less about the rules, less about the dice rolling around. It's more you create a person, because if you don't create a person, you can never feel stuff really. And the point of the game is to have feelings, to feel terror, to feel morality, to feel pain. You have to realize this, because if not, there are lots of other games you can play, but this one is made for storytelling.
Yeah, and they call the system storyteller, right?
Yeah, the storyteller system. That's what they began, at least.
And the GM is called a storyteller in those games. But are there like different factions within the vampires?
Oh gods, yes.
I'm asking rhetorical questions here,
Yeah,
but
yeah, of
do
course.
fill in, yeah.
Right. In the old setting, or rather in the medieval setting, I mean, it's mostly every group of vampires for themselves. In the modern setting, they have like gentlemen's clubs, really. They divide into families called clans. They have clubs they join, factions, stuff like that, all just to keep themselves in line. With the common knowledge that for those who don't keep in line, we have to cover for them and they might get us all killed.
Yeah. But one of the sects, the Sabbat, I think,
Yep.
they're not really fond of hiding, are they?
No, they're the throwbacks. They want to go back to how it was, but and their counterpart, the Camarilla, they're working overtime just to cover everything the Sabbat does all the time. And so the Camarilla is gleeful and saying, haha, look, we're so powerful and good, we can manipulate the entire world's everything just to make it appear that it's all normal. The Sabbat is gleeful and say, haha, we're powerful, we don't need to hide, we're so cool.
Yeah.
And then of
there's
course, the
third-
independents, the
yeah.
guys just, for some reason or another, just aren't invited to the clubs, or just they're too cool to be in them or something.
Would they be the vampire equivalent to agnostics? They're not hardcore enough to be atheists.
Oh, both kinds. I mean, one of the parts about the vampire game is when it comes to like race, religion, age, gender, whatever you have it can play a matter if you wanted to, but mostly it doesn't. I mean, you are one of the vampires.
Yeah, so it's like if you're an old Sumerian woman, for example,
Yeah.
that wouldn't matter if you were a vampire.
Well, in the modern setting, it would matter in one very special way, because you're
Old as balls.
yeah, fucking powerful.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
possibly,
but who you were doesn't matter when you become a vampire.
Well, actually it does, and that's the point. Good you brought it up. That when I allow players to play in my campaigns, or when I try to play it myself once in a blue moon, it's always the same. You have to create first a mortal, a person that you base the entire vampire on. Because, I mean, you can create, say, I'm going to make a vampire, but without any bearings, without any steering, any morality, without any hope, future, fears. I mean, you have no clue what you're playing, right? You're just something with fangs.
Yeah, but like the clans you mentioned, do they embrace making new vampires, right?
Yeah.
Do they embrace specific kind of people, or?
Yeah, stereotypically they do. That it's one of the tools the White Wolf, the creators of Vampire, put in early on to aid players.
It's like classes.
Yeah, it's like classes. It aids players in deciding more what they want, and it's easier to see from a stereotypical view what kind of person you're playing.
Okay.
It aids you.
Yeah, but if I wanted to break the mold, would I, for example, be able to be embraced by one of the wild clans and be a civilized person, or would that not work?
Actually, that's one of the most common character classes or character types you ever see in a game, because most people make this character would be awesome in one of the clans, but I am for some reason or other embraced by another clan, mostly as a joke or prank or just being an asshole. Mostly asshole.
Or-
Nosferatus.
There's
Yeah.
lots of assholes in Vampire, yeah.
Yeah. And the Nosferatu Toby mentioned. Nosferatu is a movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a move from 1922, actually.
Yeah. With Hans Schreck or whatever his name is.
Yeah, they remade Dracula, but they couldn't name it Dracula, so they just changed the name to Count Orlok or something like that.
Oh yeah. But there's a clan called Nosferatu. Or?
Yeah. They're hideous things that lives on the streets. They're supposed to be, or most of the clans originally are made to be the boogeyman, the non-player characters, really. They're made to be one thing that helps the game master terrify the players. The Nosferatu are the things that the monsters under the streets, the mole people, the things that come up through the pipes, the things you never see but they'll always hear, stuff like that. Then you have the personifications of dementia. You have the people who are they're true darkness. There are people that can melt your flesh, all kinds of things.
And they're all different clans.
Yep,
Ooh.
mostly.
Are you talking about the CBT?
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
They are quite fun, but horrible to meet in person in the role-playing session.
Yeah, they can be used for a very disturbing effect. But a big problem I've heard that Vampire has is you have something called the fish milk. Have you heard about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's a fish
have
milk?
Not.
Right, first off, the Malkavian is a clan, and every clan has a weakness. Their weakness is insanity. When you create a Malkavian character, you have to be insane in some way. You have to pick an insanity. Most people that play these Malkavians, in my experience, I have mostly banned Malkavians because of this reason, is they create characters that are insane in some way that makes it, this morality thing that's so important, they don't have to bear with it. They can just ignore it because, look at me, I'm insane. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I'm insane. No repercussions because I am insane. It doesn't work. It's the wrong kind of game.
Would you say that's a problem that comes with the clan, or is it more because of the players?
Oh no, I mean, make a real Malkavian, and that can be an awesome character, but that's a really rare breed, though. I haven't seen many good Malkavians.
I played the second game, the computer game, and there's a professor or a psychologist. You go through his house.
The flesh terror thingy?
No. You go through his house. He's already dead when you find him, and you listen to his journals.
Yeah.
Oh right, yeah. You are talking about Vampire Bloodlines.
Yeah, Bloodlines.
Yeah, the guy's trying to save his wife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a mild Malkavian, I would say, because he has, sure, you could say he's insane, but really, where is his insanity?
Have you seen his house?
Oh my god, a house does not make you insane. It just makes you a lousy decorator. True insanity is something you have inside of you that you can never escape in the vampire setting. That should be the thing that you strive for.
That's kind of
if my insanity is I paint everything red or I want to cover the world in blood, that is fine. That's just stupid insanity, not scary insanity. That is the one difference you have to know. The vampire game is out to get scary stuff.
Yeah. I think we don't really have time to go into the details of every clan.
Of course.
But I feel like we've gotten a pretty good grip on what vampire is about.
Yeah.
What would you say? Would you rather talk about werewolf or mage?
Werewolf, because I have more experience than that.
What's werewolf about? How is it different to vampire?
Right. Werewolf is kind of similar to vampire, of course. It is the notion that you're playing a monster, a thing that's not human, and they go with werewolf. The thing about werewolf is that you have to try to achieve a balance between your instincts of being a human and the instincts of being a beast, not an animal. That's the one difference. You're not an animal, you are a beast. You're intelligent even when you are running on four legs and have fangs and stuff. So
that's kind of a thing in White Wolf's games, right? That
the struggle between
balance.
Yeah.
But how do you become a werewolf in those games? Are you born with it, or are you bitten, or?
It depends on the edition and game master, or how much of an asshole I can be. The story of the game, it tells you that you're born into it. I tend to not go that way. I tend to make it something strange that just happens on an urge, possibly cannibalism or something like that. It's fun to play out, especially with young people.
So you changed the...
I take the gritty parts of being a monster werewolf. Not the fine things like, oh my god, I am so powerful. That comes later. First comes, here's the things you didn't know. How does it look when you want to feed? Or you're snuggling up with your loved one in your home, in your house, in your bed, your kids are asleep and everything's good. And you find you're not kissing her on the cheek or something, you're actually holding her down and biting and eating of her.
Is that a part of the game or just something you added?
I add it, but cannibalism is a small part of the game somewhere. I mean, it's one of the things they suggest you should use.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because beasts eat flesh, and if you're not a human, they're flesh.
Okay. So vampires have clans and things like that, but what's the underlying theme of werewolf? Is it just the whole being a monster, or?
No, actually, the core setting is kind of similar in all these games. You have clans or tribes or whatever have you. You have small clubs or sects. They're all the same and they're all trying to hide. The only thing you change is your perspective and what abilities you have mostly. You can play all these games in World of Darkness in one same sitting. One guy can be a mummy, another vampire, another werewolf, another mage. It's just very hard and it gets mixed quite a lot, but it can be done, sure.
I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
It would be hard to get all the characters to actually... Sure, all the players can play like their friends or whatever, but what kind of group of friends are mages, vampires, and werewolves?
Vampires and werewolves are like classic enemies, right? How's their relationship in
well, they are some of the oldest of the games, and they're the easiest to put together in a game because they are meant to be the nemesis of one each other. Where werewolves are essentially instincts and stuff like that. Yes, but they are bundles of life. They are living, breathing to an extent that humanity can't even begin to comprehend, whilst vampires are just static and they're death incarnate.
I've kind of gotten the idea that werewolf is more about spiritualism.
Yeah,
or?
They put it in there. For some reason, I really can't understand actually, but it's an interesting concept. They have like shamanism and spirit world and stuff like that, and I can see where people can get off on that, but I've never done it, so I can't really say more about it.
Okay. They've made so many games, Werewolf, so many, and I'm actually gonna confront you here and ask you, when I first presented the idea of playing Changeling to you, and this was maybe 15 years ago, you were adamantly against it. Why do you have this idea of not liking Changeling? Why do you not like Changeling, the Dreaming, the old?
Mostly because I would be a bad player on that. I have read a bit of Changeling of the old, at least, and I could not understand the setting, and instead of in a storytelling game I come around and just being stupid and not participating in least to the setting and the situations you want to achieve. I would be a stopping block for you. I would be hindering the story to achieve some kind of sense, really. And I tend to do that in all the kind of settings and games I don't understand. I give it a chance, of course, if I really try, but when I cannot understand what the point of the game should be, and no one can really explain it to me, and Changeling is a very vague game in that way, at least the old one was. Instead of probably ruining it for people, on the off chance that I might actually enjoy it, I step away.
Oh, so you're taking the safe approach to it.
I was, yes.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, there's a huge difference between Changeling, the Dreaming, and Changeling, the Lost. And I mean, the Lost is from the New World of Darkness. They're extremely different in how they present the characters.
Yes, as I've been told. I mean, the old one was mostly sparkles and fairies and stuff like that. But now you're, as you said here on the podcast, you're playing the victims of probably a living nightmare.
Yeah,
that I can relate to.
It's a lot about coping with being kidnapped.
Yeah.
With,
and suddenly your feelings and stuff I can understand and relate to, so that I can buy.
Changeling the Dreaming is actually about the loss of innocence. That's the main theme of the old Changeling, that the older you get, the harder it is to actually stay to this world. Everything around you, the real world, is trying to take away this innocence from you. That's kind of the overlying theme of Changeling, but it's very hard to play this in a good way. And like you said, a lot of times it's hard to find the balance between sparkles and sunshine. And
But there's another point that's actually World of Darkness related and storytelling games related more. In most games, role-playing games, that's not storytelling based. You can play most whatever and you can fit people together and that's it. You don't have to have this hopefully growing attachment to a character and a group and a setting so you can feel stuff about it. You don't need the feelings. You just play a character and have fun. In storytelling games, the point is more to, as I said before, attach yourself to the setting, to the players, to the game, to all the things that's around you.
yeah.
Well, that's World of Darkness for you.
I'm gonna be mean to you and ask you what would be. Well, I'm gonna ask a mean question. What's the worst part of Old World of Darkness?
The worst part is it's not for everyone, it seems. I've tried with many players, and if you want the kind of game where you can sit around and just talk and be characters to each other and stuff like that, it's no problem. If you're more interested in quick achievements or rolling dice or looking through systems or stuff like that, I mean, you can always go play like Diablo or Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. But many players...
It's not a game for murder hobos.
It can definitely be.
Okay.
That can be real fun in some ways. But if you're looking for a rule-heavy system, if you're looking for, well, stuff that, you will not find it.
Yeah. I mentioned before, I GM'd Transylvanian Chronicles.
Good on you.
And I tried. And I also GM'd Giovanni Chronicles online. And we finished the first book, actually. We never finished the first book of Transylvanian Chronicles. But online, I remember one of the players got very upset at the end of the first Giovanni Chronicles book because he felt cheated. He wanted to play a good character who helped people. He did help people, but he felt very powerless in helping people.
I understand it. That is, although that is a weakness of the World of Darkness, at least in my opinion. Most of the adventures and stuff they write, the finished products, all their campaigns and stuff, I use them only for inspiration. I read them and look through them for inspiration, but to be a character in these games, you're so locked down. You can't do shit outside those boxes.
No. And I talked to Martin about Old World of Darkness before and New World of Darkness, and he brought up an interesting point that in New World of Darkness, they have a system for vampire where you fall asleep if you're too powerful,
right.
and you kind of revert, you lose power. So you can be a really old vampire, then you just kind of go into torpor.
You can continue playing your favorite character.
Yeah, I remember that. That's the blood potency.
Yeah, and if I recall, they included that because in Old World of Darkness, the constant problem was there's always going to be a bigger shark or a bigger fish, right? And those fish never die; they just get stronger.
Yeah, but in the Old World of Darkness, it seems that they're not out to be the nice guys. The World of Darkness is not supposed to be nice. I mean, if you fuck up, you really fuck up, and possibly you won't get out of it unscratched. And if you do, your game master has been quite lazy, actually.
Yeah. But I want to bring up something you said very early on, that vampires about loss of humanity or the struggle of retaining your humanity. And I tried to explain this to the player that got upset, that the reason I have people you care about, sometimes a character you saved, then mercilessly slaughtered by the bad guy, is not because I want to make you feel bad. It's because I want to create this emotion of humans die, and you can't save them all.
That's true, but I mean, without loss, how can you know happiness and joy? How can you, without knowing both winning and losing, how can you ever be happy about it?
Yeah. It's really difficult, and I feel like I've been in so vastly different vampire games. I've been in games where it's all about that emotion, and I've been in games where it's all about the politics, and I've been in games where it's all about the street crawling of killing thugs.
It is the balance between the players and the game master or storyteller. Mostly, the smart way to go about it, as you mentioned before in this podcast, is that before you create characters and even the setting is decided, you sit down, you talk about it, you agree on certain things, like where it's going to be, what it's going to be about, mostly, and then you flesh it out.
Yeah. A little while ago, a few years ago, actually, White Wolf kind of went tits up, right?
Yeah.
They went bankrupt and got bought up by the Icelandic company that made EVE Online, I think.
Did they?
Yeah,
oh, really?
And they were actually working on an MMORPG of Vampire.
Yeah, I heard about that, and the pictures were awesome, but it didn't go anywhere.
No, it just went into development hell, and then they dropped it. And now a Swedish Paradox Interactive bought the whole company, actually, White Wolf. So White Wolf actually has risen from the ashes, and they're making new vampire games.
Yeah.
And they're actually making, as far as I can recall, I read it, Onyx Game Publishing, or Onyx, the people who they are going to be doing new stuff for New World of Darkness, and White Wolf is going to be making new stuff for Old World of Darkness, but with some stuff changed. as far as I can recall.
So they
And-
can sell it and not claim to be the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they've made 2 mobile games, actually. One for Mage and one for Vampire. Have you heard of them?
No,
I
this is
have
the first.
never heard of this.
You should. They're 50 crowns each on iStore.
Well, I'll say like this. I don't care what they do as long as they continue doing stuff. I mean, if they're advancing the cause and advancing role-playing games, that's just good.
Yeah.
I mean, sooner or later, no matter how much things you throw out that's garbage, some of them are going to be good.
That's true. I think some World of Darkness stuff never really got off from the ground.
No, Demon, for example.
But that's sad, because Demon the Fallen was actually probably one of the best set, in my opinion. I thought it was a really interesting take on it.
They had an interesting concept, yeah,
It was
but
just released too close to the end.
and they didn't really know what to do with it.
No, that's true. That's true. I think it was actually intended to be leading up till the end of Old World of Darkness, because angels started appearing on
Yeah,
or
they seem
demons,
to have
or-
some kind of plan to destroy the entire world and
Yeah,
just begin
yeah.
again.
Yeah, and some other stuff, like some of the were creatures that you could play were highly doubtful. If they were-
Strange.
Yeah, the
I mean-
were sharks.
Yeah, that's one of the strangest thing you can have. I mean, fine, you can play. Look, you can play a were
They were
shark. That's
cool.
awesome.
They were cool.
Yeah, but you're alone in the oceans.
Yeah, and you hate people.
Yeah, and you hate land.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's like what, you're gonna fight oil spills or something like that? I mean,
I think that was kind of
it's a cool idea, but it's not feasible. It should have been its own game setting.
It wasn't really executed well.
No,
No.
But were alligators? They can at least be in the sewers.
that's cool. Where alligators in the sewer is cool. I think World of Darkness really, if you wanted to play urban, what would you call it? Occult? Not occult. Urban.
I would go
Urban fantasy, maybe? Urban.
Yeah, but I would say it's easier in another way. Most role-playing games I played beforehand, they had stats mostly for solving stuff and blowing stuff up and avoiding being blown up. World of Darkness was the first game thing that equalized skills like you can have your bulky strength, you can have your brain, you can have your charisma, you can be... I mean, empathy and shooting people has the equal value. You can use all kinds of tools and it's not set in a way.
Yeah.
The first game ever that told me that you can have skills in being a nice guy and that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, and that they differentiate charisma and manipulation is an interesting way of approaching it too. I think games like World of Darkness really... I think they have been so fundamental in the establishment of, like we talked about before, I think we did it off mic though, that World of Darkness has influenced media a lot.
Oh yeah. That thing about... well, you have lots of series nowadays.
Yeah.
Lots of teen books about
True
people
Blood,
being... people
Teenage
being
Vampire,
vampires,
Vampire
demons,
Diaries,
whatever thing
yeah,
is
yeah.
half here and half there. I mean, sure, those things... in a perverse way, they help. They bring enlightenment to this genre that is more people buy the game and play the game.
That's true. And Anne Rice used to write a bunch of books about vampires too. And
Yeah, but-
didn't Vampire take some stuff
Yep.
from her?
She was actually one of their biggest inspirations, it seems, in the early books.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't really much out there about those blood-sucking
Yeah,
monsters.
but I mean, Lestat, how much more Toreador can you be?
Yeah.
I think we're actually out of time for now, so I'd like to thank you, Daniel, for coming to our show again. And
Hey, it's
talking
always nice
about-
to be here and rambling.
Yeah, it's great, and you're more than welcome to come to later episodes, and we can even go in depth into just one of these settings. There's so much to talk about.
So much.
Yeah.
They're like talking about just World of Darkness isn't possible.
No. This became a way more vampire-focused episode than we intended, but that's good because...
Told you so.
Yeah, you did. You really did. We will get back to this topic in another podcast, probably.
Yeah, I can just give one clue to every kind of storyteller. The most fun thing that a player can play in any of those games, play a simple non-knowing human.
Oh,
Begin there.
yeah.
That is the most as fun you can have.
Yeah. Start out with a human and then see where it goes.
If it goes anywhere.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you guys in the next episode. And until that time, keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Thank you for listening to Swede Rolls. Your support means the world to us. The music you heard playing at the start and the end of this episode is Fireside Tales by Darren Curtis. The intent of this podcast is to discuss themes and issues in all manner of gaming, but primarily focused on the RPG genre.
If you have any comments or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Pay us a visit at swederolls.com, where you can also learn about the people doing this podcast and more. For our Let's Play channel, check us out at youtube.com/Swede_fighters. And until next time, keep rolling.